Welcome back to the Baseball Blue Book podcast. My name is Eric Wibinaw, the president of the Baseball Blue Book, and we are back at the great state of Pennsylvania, my home state. And we've got Vinny Gallo, head coach at Penn State Brandywine, with us. We're excited to talk to him about his program and learn a little bit about him. But before we begin, I encourage everyone to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, guys. The comments has been fantastic. You can also follow us on the podcast channels, Apple and Spotify, for the entire length of the interview that we have. Follow us on Twitter as well. We got a lot of things going on there, and super excited about what we're doing. Coach Gallo, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Eric? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Things are great. The season has begun. Things are looking great out there. One of the things I've heard about the great state of Pennsylvania is you guys have actually been able to get on the field in the February, March time, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we the last 5-6 years we've always played games in February, but it's usually those games the first days we're on a field. And this year being at our field, we have a field on campus. We don't play games there. We practice there. It's a natural surface. It's not in great shape, but we had a whole week's worth of practice on our outdoor field, and before we went over to the turf facility we play at. So it's been really nice weather we've had here, and we're actually going to be outside tonight too for practice. So looking forward to it.
That's great. Well, hey, as we do with the podcast, it's always about your journey. We're going to talk about Coach Gallo's journey to begin with, some of the things that he's also doing, kind of an extracurricular activities, and interested to talk to you about that. But then the second half of the podcast will be really about the program, Brandywine program, what Coach is doing there. And what kind of players that he's looking for. And it's always really exciting to hear kind of the difference between, how the coaches go about it and what they're looking for the recruits for their program. So, Coach, why don't we go ahead and begin with your journey?
Yeah, sure. So first off, I'm Vinny Gallo from Springfield, Delaware County in Pennsylvania. It's where I was born and raised. Went to Springfield High School after my journey there at Springfield as a player. I went to Penn State Brandywine, where I'm the head coach, and spent four out of 5 years in the program as a player. And then once I graduated, was able to become an assistant coach. And it's kind of where I get going. But my journey kind of really starts, back with my education. I was not exactly the brightest student in the world. School was always a struggle for me. So I kind of went on this journey with my mom and her and my dad helping me, get me that extra help that I needed throughout the years. And sports, I'm from Philadelphia, so right outside of Philadelphia. So sports are obviously a passion of all of ours. And baseball was that one that just stuck with me. I never wanted to be away from it. And it was kind of my motivating factor of going through middle school, high school, and then into college. Around my sophomore year of high school, I kind of decided I wanted to be involved in baseball. I didn't think I was talented enough to play professionally. Actually, I kind of knew that. I was, 5'5", so that wasn't going to work out for me very well. But there was that option of coaching, and I thought maybe I'll, high school, maybe I'll be a travel coach or something like that. And played out my high school career. Was somewhat recruited by Penn State Brandywine. The coach at the time, Jeff Vickers, was, you can come try out. We'll see what you have, and maybe you'll make the team. We don't know. So that summer I had actually playing American Legion baseball, and hats off to American Legion baseball. It was probably the best times of my life playing the game of baseball as a player. But we had a great summer that year, going into my freshman year of college, my last year playing American Legion. And I decided I wanted to keep playing. It was just, I had to keep playing. And so I reached back out to the head coach at Penn State Brandywine, and I was like, we were Penn State Delaware County at the time. And I was like, try out, I decided I want to try out. And, the seniors on the team called me Rudy because I shouldn't have made the team. I was actually able to beat out a kid who was recruited for the last roster spot. So it was a pretty cool accomplishment of mine to be able to do that. And then through there, a couple people just kind of mentioned to me, man, you'd be a great coach. You should seriously consider it. Like you think about the game all the time. You're constantly strategically talking about it during the games and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's, something I'd like to do. I never thought about getting paid to do it. So I always thought that was a volunteer thing. So, but that after my freshman year of college at Penn State, I was kind of, my arm was shot at that point. Like it was going from senior year of high school, and back in my freshman year at Brandywine, we played half our season in the fall. So it was November of my senior year of high school all the way through almost end of October of my freshman year of college, just constantly throwing and baseball. So took the summer off and decided to go back and help my uncle coach our American Legion team. My uncle Jeff Kilgallen, who's one of my favorite coaches I ever played for. And he just kind of gave me like the reins to coach third base, write the lineup out every day. And from there, my brother was actually on the team. He was a senior in high school that year. And his high school graduation party, a man named Dick Delaney, who's former coach at Philadelphia Textile, and then eventually became the head basketball coach at Westchester University, pulled me aside at my brother's graduation party and said, I really think you should consider making this a career. Like strategically you're there and you see the passion and I'd like to help you out with that. So Dick's been a mentor of mine for now 11, 12 years, 15 years now. He's been kind of taking me under his wing, and we don't talk as much as we used to, but he's been a guy who's really taken me under his wing and helped me through my coaching journey. And it's been a lot of pleasure. It's been a huge pleasure to get to know him, and his big thing is relationships. And that was something I kind of struggled with at first, because you're coaching against somebody who's in the same position as you, and you're trying to do everything to kick their butt on the baseball field. But then off the field, you got to maintain that relationship with them. So how do you, as a pull and tug there? So how do you go about doing that? And he really helped me out with that a lot, and helped me maintain those relationships, create relationships, maintain them. But people ask me all the time, why do you coach? What's your why? And we do a what's your why with our program every year with all our players and coaches. And growing up, my dad didn't have like your typical CPA job or your lawyer or engineer. My dad created his own business of making signs and t-shirts and apparel, and he still does it to this day. And just getting to see my dad do what he loved to do, and he'll tell you I've never worked a day in my life. And I looked up to that because I knew like I really wanted to do something I loved, and what I loved was baseball. And now that I'm a dad of two, and I have a son who's he's 2.5 now, I hope that he gets to look up to me and say, wow, my dad is he does what he loves, and not necessarily coaching, because there's not enough money, kid. Go make more money doing something else. But, do something you love. And that's what I want both of my kids, my son and daughter, to know. So that's where where it's kind of started. But like I mentioned before, is I was not exactly the greatest student in the world. Academically, I struggled. I had an IEP all through high school, and going to college was always a question mark. Did I want to go? Did I want to spend more years in a classroom? Or did I want to just start making money, working for my dad? And the answer to that question from my dad was, no, I'm doing something I love. You're going to do something you love. So I was also a type of kid, like a lot of teenagers, where they're looking for that way out. Like, what was that, waiting for someone to give you that reason to stop. And I went to college. I went to Penn State Brandywine. I've always been a Penn State fan since I was 4 or 5 years old. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, and I have to mention this because my mom she was such a huge impact in my academic journey to help me get through high school and college to graduate. And we went on that journey together, her and I. It was the morning of my graduation, and I'm laying in bed. I'm kind of just like, I don't have to be there till 10. I'm just kind of being moseying around the bedroom and laying around. And she comes in and she's like, can you do this? Get out of bed. And I'm like, it's my day. I'm gonna enjoy this. And she goes, I got to tell you, I never thought we'd get to this day, to be honest with you. Like, even every day for the last, 18 years, I never thought we'd get here. And I said, thank you for not telling me that, because I probably would have quit had you did. So both my parents, they just had this no quit type of attitude. You keep going until you get the job done right. And I'm so grateful for them for that. But I've had some struggles through my playing career, my coaching career, academically as well. In college, after my going into my sophomore year, I was ineligible for the spring, and my GPA was down to a 1.8, and I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And I'm like, my parents are disappointed, the coaches are disappointed, everybody's just kind of like disappointed in me. So I was able to turn that around the next semester, and I was up to above eligibility requirements and so on and so forth. Played out my junior year. Probably had my best year of college. It was my best year of college baseball in the 2010 season. And then that summer, I was coaching a different team I was coaching with, a friend of mine. So actually my college, then my pitching coach and I were coaching another American Legion team, and he eventually became our head coach. Him and I we spent a lot of time together after games, going out to eat and kind of put on the weight that you're not supposed to put on. And when he took over the job, he had a choice to make, and he wound up cutting me because I just was not in shape. I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and that was a pretty hard day. And both those days, the day I found out I was ineligible, the day I was cut, and I to this day, his name is Tom Calvecchio. He was my head coach for 2 years of my 5 years at Penn State Brandywine. To this day, on September 12th, every year, I text him to thank him for cutting me, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today without him cutting me that day. Because at that point in my life, I was arrogant, I was selfish, I thought the world owed me something, and I had a lot to learn. And because of that, I learned something. And then later that spring, I was a senior, but I had another year of eligibility and another year of school to go. And a friend of mine on the team said, I want to play. I just want to play again. He goes, well, you're not going to make this team unless you get yourself in shape. So got with our athletic trainer at the time, Marty Earl, and him and I put together a plan, and I executed it. And it was the day I made the team was, again, was just absolutely like one of the best days of my life up until recently. So it was a journey. And then, graduated later that year. And Tom Calvecchio decided he was going to resign, and his whole coaching staff, they were going somewhere else to do their, full-time jobs somewhere else and out of the game. And threw my name in the ring as a, almost graduate, said, I want to see what the athletic director says here. And his name is Jim Gassner, and I owe him a lot of credit too for where I'm at today. And he said, well, you're a little bit too young. I'm not going to hire someone to take over a successful program at this age, but why don't you join the search committee? I'll put you on the search committee for the next head coach, and I'll, do my best to get you on the coaching staff. And so we hired a guy, Billy Haynes, and Billy took me on as his assistant coach. I was just going to be like a volunteer assistant for the first year. And after a few other coaches moved on to other jobs, I was kind of thrust into the pitching coach role. And from there, I was like, oh, wow, I'm now in charge. I'm in charge of a full pitching staff here. And, we were not a very talented team. A lot of the guys, recruits were supposed to come in, didn't come in because of the head coach leaving. And, we're down to 18 players on the roster, and trying to manage a pitching staff of 8 through a college season was not easy. So I got to learn a lot there. And I owe a lot to Billy too, Haynes, because throughout the 4 years, I worked. My dad was worked for my dad. He's let's get it done right. And, you're my instructions. I'm only giving them to you once, and you better get them right away. And so I always thought everyone should be like that. So when they're not, I would get frustrated. And Billy really helped me through my journey of being a head coach, or eventually becoming a head coach, because he taught me how to use my voice and when to use that tough voice and when not to, and how, like, learning from him about when's the right time to use it and not all the time. And that was like something I've really taken to heart over my now less 7 years as head coach at Penn State Brandywine. At the end of the 2016 season, Billy sent me a text message. He was resigning, and he was going to be moving on to, just be a family man and a dad. And that was the end of his coaching career. He eventually became a high school head coach and whatnot. But I was then interviewed for the job, went through the whole process at Penn State Brandywine with Jim Gassner, and I was, thank God, he offered me the job in late June of that summer, and the recruiting journey started there. You're already a month and a half behind, and you're on the trails that summer, and bringing guys in. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was just that first year was like, I always say, a first year of a program, a lot of kids are excited for the changes that are coming. The second year of being a head coach is the hardest, because now a lot of kids are still there, are saying, whoa, I like the way it was before. But you're trying to install your culture, your way of doing things into a program. And that second year was probably the toughest year from a team standpoint. But we fought through it, and we've had a lot of success. And then finding the right coaching staff. Right now, I think we have the best coaching staff in the PSUAC and in the USCAA. And, we're going from there. So but that's kind of where my journey takes me. And here I am today. I'm blessed. God's blessed me with a beautiful wife, two beautiful children, Vinny, who is 2.5, and Gia, who's 2 months. So we're really very happy over here. And I also have the unique opportunity of working for my wife. My wife is our athletic director.
Okay.
So it's definitely a unique journey for me in that aspect too. So usually when I'm in there asking for more equipment, she's saying no.
That's great. You get no's at home and at work, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's great. Well, congratulations on the new daughter. That's exciting.
Thank you.
2 months,
Thank you.
a lot more responsibility. I've had both, both boys and girls, and girls are just a unique opportunity and a lot of fun. So I appreciate that. And so, Coach, there's a lot of stuff there. Even being at Brandywine, really your entire journey. A lot of adversity, and I really like to kind of talk a little bit about that. And you've shared what you've used that adversity for and how you've moved it forward. But of all of the things, from being cut, not making the team, not getting the head coach job, what was the one, probably the biggest defining moment? And if you look back and said, this is what's made me who I am today.
Oh, for sure. The day I was cut, because that was, to me, playing college baseball was, I guess it's how I identified myself. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm a baseball player. What do you mean I'm not allowed to wear the uniform anymore? Like, wait, what's that mean? Like, how do I function? Like, my brother's on the team, my cousin's on the team. Like, I still am going to go to the games and watch my teammates battle every day, and I'm not going to be a part of it. And it killed me. I mean, that was gut wrenching. And thank God, I thank the Lord for that moment. I mean, and I put all my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and every day I thank him for every moment of my life. And I'm a firm believer in that, like, he puts you in situations for a reason. And I really do believe he put me at Penn State Brandywine because I met my wife there. I made the baseball team there. I was cut there. I became back with the team. I became an assistant coach, became a head coach there. So it's been that moment, though. I still, like I said before, I text my Tom Calvecchio every year on September 12th, which was the day I walked into the athletic center, and I'm looking on the roster for my name, and it's not there. And I must have scanned that roster 1,500 times to make sure. And, I did not handle it well in the moment. And it also taught me when things like that happen, take a deep breath and don't let your emotions get the best of you, because nothing good happens when you're overly happy, and nothing good happens when you're overly angry. And I've kind of taken that approach I learned my lesson last year after a bad loss. So, we, after games now, wins or losses, we don't talk, especially in between double headers. You have 10 minutes to eat, you have, get yourself together, run and stretch, and then we'll talk for 2 minutes before game time. And after a win, it's just give the game ball out to the guy who's supposed to get the game ball and tell him the practice plan for the next couple of days, and we're out. We don't really talk about it too much until the next day when we have a meeting, because it's your mind is racing too much in those moments. Right. You're thinking about, do we just win an emotional walk-off? I'm not thinking clearly in that situation. Right. 2 Sundays ago, we won in the bottom of the ninth playing Rosemont. We threw a guy out the plate for the second out, and then a guy hits a chopper that I'm not sure how my third baseman made the play and threw the guy out at first base to end the game. And there's just so much emotion going on. You don't want to talk too much in those moments. And I've learned that through the years, because you just get yourself in trouble and say the wrong thing.
I think that is great advice for any players, parents that are listening right now, on how to control the emotions, but also using the adversity for something that's good, right? You're never put in a situation that you can't handle. And the decision, I was talking to one coach, and I talked about, how did you handle a situation that you had no control over? And he goes, I have control over everything that happens, right? It's my response to the situation that comes up. And I thought that was fantastic. And it's kind of what you're saying, right? The situations that you get into, how do you respond? And then also learning. And I think that's what's great to talk to coaches. And I appreciate you sharing that. Coach, we're gonna make a transition over to kind of your program. So I appreciate you sharing your story, your journey, and congratulations on the success and being at the program. A lot of great things that are happening there at Brandywine. But again, before we get into the program and more of the recruit side, please subscribe to the channel. A lot of great coaches that I have on, lots of good things happening. And I appreciate that your support, and it helps us continue to grow the brand as well as the episodes. So Coach, we're with Coach Vinny Gallo with Penn State Brandywine, and just heard his journey, and now we're going to get into the program. Let's talk about the program. What makes it unique? Yeah. What makes what's your pitch, your elevator pitch to the recruits that you go out and talk to about specifically the program and Penn State Brandywine?
Yeah, so the pitch is to a recruit is it's a 4-year degree, get a chance to play the sport you love for 4 more years, get a Big Ten degree from Penn State University in a small campus environment, a fraction of the cost of what a lot of these other schools cost, and especially at our level, and just that chance to play baseball at a collegiate level, put a Penn State uniform on, and we're in our situation, we're 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia. There's a lot to do. We have a mix of so many different personalities and cultures and whatnot in our program that it's just kind of fun to see it all kind of mixed together. You get the kids from Philadelphia or New York. We get a lot of kids from New York as well, and they're going camping and in the mountains, and they're like, I've never done this before. And then you get the kids from the mountains going to the city for the night to go to a Phillies or a Sixers or a Flyers or an Eagles game. So that's kind of like we're a close-knit family here in our program, but that's kind of how we always have depicted it. Sometimes we're a little dysfunctional, but that's okay. What family isn't? That's kind of how we talk to our guys about things. But that our program, it's 1988 was the first year our baseball program came to be. We were a 2-year school for a long time. It was just a satellite campus to send guys up to the main campus. And in 2001, they started adding majors that were 4 years. And then in 2000, I believe it was 5 or 6, they started allowing 4-year athletics. So where most of our guys stay for 4 years, we will have a couple guys after their sophomore year, their major requires them to leave. And that's another unique thing too. One unique thing that I use to talk to our recruits about is that none of my coaching staff, including myself, are full-time here. And some people might be turned off by that, but we're bringing a kid into our campus to succeed in the classroom and then eventually succeed outside of the classroom. And okay, sounds good. Yep. So we're bringing kids in to succeed in the classroom, and then when they graduate, in the real world. So when we have a coaching staff, for example, my full-time job outside of coaching is I work for a large trucking company in an accounting department. Our hitting coach works for his family's construction business. Our outfield coach is a retired police officer. Our pitching coach works for Vanguard. So, and our catching coach, he's a route salesman for a beverage company. So we have that connections for internships, and we have those connections for full-time jobs and the ear of people in companies that, and I've been around the block with some companies that I've worked for, and just, again, my relationship, the ability to create relationships, not just in baseball, but my relationships professionally in the professional world has helped my players as well. And it helps us recruit too, because of that unique situation. So I guess, I would love to be full-time at Penn State, but that's just not in the cards right now. And so we kind of take what we have and we make it an advantage to us. And, that's one of my big selling points to a lot of parents. I mean, you're not only selling the kid, you're selling the parents on your camp, on your school and your program. So, and, I hear it all the time, coach say, we're not bringing you here to be successful in baseball. And we want to win. We're competitive. We want to get on the baseball field and win. Right. But at the end of the day, if we don't win a championship in your 4 years, but you leave here with a degree and you're now making money and you're living your dream out, I think I've done a good job. One of my favorite things about how we've run the program the last few years, and when I was an assistant, we would get back from the playoffs, and we've never won our conference championship yet, and that's obviously a goal of ours still. But we would get back from conference playoffs, and we'd get off the bus, and people would grab their stuff, get in their car, and they'd leave. Under every head coach that I played for, and every head coach I've coached under, it was like that. And one of the most proudest moments was in 2019, when I really felt was when we were really installing our culture into our program. We got off the bus after playoffs, and I swear it was 3 hours that these guys we were all just hanging out in the parking lot. And we were like, no one wanted to leave because of the relationships that these guys have created over the course of a 10-month journey together. And some guys are going to be back, some guys won't be back. Some guys live in, we have kids from all over the country in our program. So that kid from Colorado is graduating. It's a reality sets in. We might not see him ever again. So you want to make sure that you have that culture that no one wants to leave. So even when they have to.
No, that's great. I back to the Penn State network. I'm a Hawkeye, so I hate to talk about Penn State in a good light, but the system is pretty darn good, right? You can.
I think in football we.
Yeah, it's been a back and forth.
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 2017 might have been my favorite one. So.
Yeah, it's been interesting, but the network is pretty amazing, right? You can go to kind of these satellite schools. You get a full Penn State degree, everything that comes with it, and actually have an opportunity for multiple opportunities to play baseball at the collegiate level and get that degree. And I think it's a fantastic way that they've done at the state level, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. You talked a lot about relationship. So a couple questions for you. What is the best advice that you would give to players and recruits that you're talking to, and ones that are looking to get to the next level from the perspective of relationship?
Don't burn bridges. That's my dad always said that to me. And I think when I was maybe in high school and early in college, I think I burned enough bridges with people. And, you can only say sorry so many times. And you want to be able to just maintain your relationship with someone as much as you possibly can. And, be there for people, and they'll be there for you. And I say to our recruits all the time, that the first few weeks of the semester are always the hardest for kids, especially kids who live far away. They're not from around the area. We have a lot of kids from around our area, but some of them are from far away. And that adjustment of not being around mom and dad for the first time, it's always like that. That's the week where I lose sleep because I'm getting that call, coach, I don't know. I think I need to go home. So you're getting those calls all the time. And, you're just kind of talking to these kids through these situations. Like, it's going to get better. You're going to make more friends. You're going to make friends that I promise you're going to have groomsmen in your wedding. And when they say that to them, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Let me, just give it a try and push through it. And 95% of them push their way through and make it through and have continued to develop relationships. And one of my former players was our hitting coach. And his group of guys that he played with under me they were just a great group of guys. And to this day, they're all best friends and they're all going to be groomsmen in each other's wedding. And it's like, to me, that makes me the most proud that I helped you guys to form those relationships. Yeah. And, I've learned through the years of, even with relationships with coaching, and I tell the story, and Grant Yoder used to be the head baseball coach at Penn State Schuylkill, who's our big rival. And Grant, yeah, so I always tell the story about a friend of mine, Grant Yoder. He was the head baseball coach at Penn State Schuylkill, and Grant and I would have some battles on the baseball field. We were rivals. Our schools were rivals, and there'd be chippiness, all stuff from dugout back and forth to each other. And after the game's over, it's a handshake, a hug, and you want to go grab a beer. And it's just. And then I was at Game 3 of the World Series this year for the Phillies, and I ran into him, and he's no longer coaching, but just those relationships are so important to your you can never have enough friends, right? So, and I'm not saying everyone needs to be your close best friend, but having those relationships and friendships are just so important. And I got to say so I started coaching in summer of 2012 at Brandywine as an assistant coach and doing all the recruiting circuit and stuff. I've made more relationships just through that. You're sitting at a showcase for 12 hours on end in the blazing heat, and you get to learn a lot about some guys sitting around you. So it's those are some great relationships to create, and I love seeing the younger crop of coaches coming up now too. They get it maybe more than my age group got it. The relationship thing. So it's a lot of fun to see those guys coming through.
No, that's great advice. What is the biggest challenge that you have in finding recruits?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge we hope we solved. We're cross our fingers. We just got a approval from the NCAA to go to the exploratory phase to transition into the NCAA Division III. So that's been our biggest challenge over the years. We have so many Division III schools in our area, and kids are like, "Coach, I'm going to commit here. I'm going to commit there," and you ask them, "What's the reason?" And well, they're D3 and you're not. And so that's been our biggest reason, our biggest challenge over the years. So we hope we've solve that issue. And then I think our next biggest issue is getting a field on campus. That's our goal in the baseball program, is to get a baseball field built on campus.
Great. What is one thing that you see kids doing wrong when they're trying to get recruited? And this is kind of just a general theme of what are some things that maybe they could be doing better, or one thing that they're doing that they should be focused on a little bit more.
I'm sorry, you said the recruits themselves?
Yeah, the recruits themselves.
Yeah, I think doing more research. I think that, there's so many kids who just commit right away because they think they're in the right spot. And I mean, we don't have access to the portal yet. We're hopefully going to get that soon when we make this transition. But, just hearing the stories about it and seeing the portal, it's a mess. And it's, you can always tell when the big schools have their exit interviews because the next day it's flooded, right? So, you want to have make a wiser decision. Go where you're wanted. I know that's like, it goes through that phrase goes through Twitter and the social media world. Go where you're wanted. Go where you're needed. Don't go somewhere because it has a label on it. And that, as cliche as it sounds nowadays, it's the truth. Like, go where you're wanted. Go where you're going to have the opportunity to play. I tell recruits all the time, Penn State Brandywine is not a place for a freshman to come sit. You're going to be thrust into a role, some sort of role, whether it's a starter, a bench guy, a reliever, a starting pitcher. We're going to find a role for you because we don't have the luxury of having you sit and develop over the course of 3 or 4 years. Now we'll have 1 or 2 guys that we do that with, but for the most part, we're not a place where freshmen come in and sit. We need you to contribute and help us out.
That's great. And you said that you have players from all over the country. Is it really just wherever you can find some kids that are interested? Where are you going? Do you use high schools? Is it travel teams? Is it recruiting services? What do you where do you go more than most?
It's yeah, I think because of our situation here at Penn State Brandywine, none of us being full time, we got to get creative, right? So we're going out, we're doing the summer weekend showcases, and then fieldlevel.com's been huge for us. And believe it or not, we have a kid from Colorado that during the pandemic I found on Twitter. I was just kind of thumbing through Twitter and I saw this kid hitting and I was like, wow, I like that kid. Let me find out about him. And I messaged his coach, and the coach messaged me back, got me in touch with the kid. And so all forms of social media, recruiting platforms, showcases. When I first got into this, you're going to high school games in March in Pennsylvania and missing practice as an assistant coach to go watch a high school game and to see one kid maybe get 4 at-bats, or you're hoping that kid you're going to see is pitching that day. So it's a little bit different nowadays than it was, even 15 years ago. So, we have to use every way about us to find.
That's great. Again, cut out again. We're going to wait for you to come back. Okay, you there? Okay.
Yeah.
Just went off. Okay. I think that was good. I don't have any more questions, but I apologize. It always, when this happens, you kind of get out of your rhythm. So I'm going to hit stop recording.